Hey Norm, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good, I'm good. Hi everyone. Welcome to the Ecom Power podcast, the Walmart Marketplace podcast. I'm super excited because today we have a very hot topic. It seems like a couple of our last podcasts and webinar were related to retail, and it seems like people are really interested in how they take the product to retail. So we have today a good friend of you, Norm. So I will let you introduce him soon, but let me just tell you a little bit about what today. So today we're gonna discuss how to create an appealing retail catalog, and we're gonna find out what's make a retail catalog appeal to retail buyers, what strategies to enhance to your product presentation in the catalog, and what is the relevant information that will make your retail catalog attractive to buyers. So again, welcome to the Ecom Power podcast. Let's take a quick note from our sponsor and we'll be right back.
Are you struggling with your Walmart marketplace business? Do you need help from a skilled and reliable virtual assistant? Well, look no further than Virtual Assistant Academy or VAA Philippines. VAA specializes in locating, screening, training, and supporting high quality Walmart VAs in the Philippines. Their VAs receive extensive Walmart training and ongoing professional development and are committed to long term working relationships with you. Partner with VAA and experience the peace of mind knowing that you have a dedicated Walmart trained VA who's up to date with the latest tools and trends in the dynamic Walmart marketplace. Head over to VAAphilippines.com and let VAA match you with your ideal VA today.
All right. So today we're going to be discussing how to create an appealing retail catalog. And if you're just tuning in, I would highly recommend that you go and tag a couple people and let them know what's happening because this is a very popular subject and a lot of people, I say the high majority of people get this wrong. So our guest entered into the e-com world of Amazon in 2017 and then began successfully introducing brands to retail in 2021. He possesses the skill of turning content into organized, logical, step by step processes. Aaron is a visionary who can help you make achievable goals to turn your vision for your brand into reality. And I'm talking about one of my partners, Aaron Harbidge. And welcome, Aaron.
Yeah, thanks, Norm. It's great to be here. It's great to be here.
Yeah, before we get started, and sorry about your voice. You got a sore throat, I know, and it's not because you smoke cigars like me, but but so don't worry about it. You sound awesome. But one of the things I want to talk about is I had a guest on our podcast the other day, and she started talking to me. This is yesterday about something really cool, and first time I ever heard about it. Have you ever heard of perplexity?
Perplexity. No, no,
Oh
no.
my gosh. So after I got off yesterday, I went and I checked this out. And what this does is it gets its traffic from Google, but it's an AI search engine that
Okay.
is absolutely incredible. And the responses that you get, in my opinion, are way better than what you would get in Google. So check it out. It's absolutely free. And I was, playing around, just putting different searches in, last night for a while, and it was fantastic. And the other thing I just want to make note of is our guest told me about. I was using Claude, just the regular one, the free version, and then I ended up upgrading to Pro when she told me about how great Claude 3 is. So I took a lot of my notes, and that could be your wall. It could be your Walmart listing. It could be whatever that is. But I put it in. I put my competitors' listings in using Web Pilot, but then put it into Claude 3. And I was amazed at the information that, like I was asking about the brand. How did this brand differentiate between this brand and the other brand? And it was giving me some great answers, which I don't think I would have got out of ChatGPT. Plus, by the way, and I know we're talking retail here, but for competitive research, if you add Web Pilot into your ChatGPT, it can do incredible web searches. So I'm talking about Amazon searches, competitive searches, and you can ask it questions about that to build it out. So those are a couple of things that this was yesterday's Wednesday AI podcast from Lunch with Norm. And Joe and Kelsey, I'm not even going to try. I know Joe as Joe Lamb. I'm not even going to try to say her last name. But yeah, stuff, the way that it's going. And by the way, we're using this right now. So I built out an avatar and I asked the avatar at the end. I spent a lot of time, like 8 pages of prompting, but I asked it to build out my avatar's image. And first try, it came out with the perfect image.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So sorry for hogging the time. I'm trying to say
you're excited about it, and I get you. I absolutely get you. It is exciting, all this stuff, all the what we can do with AI.
oh,
It's hard to keep up with it all. It's hard to keep up with it all.
it is.
It is. Yeah, that's actually interesting. We should have some question for you about that later on. But yeah, so Norm, do you want to take the first question?
Sure. So this is a comment first. I've got to know Aaron over the last year and a half because of his retail experience, him and Taylor Offer, who was on just the other week. But these are experts. Both of the guys are expert in this field. And one of the things they started out when I first met them, yes, I'm Canadian, was the retail catalog and how if you don't have it, you just shot yourself in the foot. And if you don't do it properly, you just shot yourself in the foot. So I've learned a lot from Aaron over the last little while. And so why don't we just talk about it like right off the beginning? Why do you need a retail catalog, Aaron?
Yeah, I think that's a really good place to start. So as Norm, I'll just make this really quick qualifier. As Norm already mentioned, my voice isn't normally this way. So thank you everybody for bearing with me on this. So yeah, retail catalog. Why do we need a retail catalog? And I think, especially for brands that are coming from the e-commerce side, that is definitely a question that has to be asked, because when you're going into retail, it requires a bit of a change of mindset. I've worked in the e-commerce world. I've worked with brands on e-commerce, and then you go to retail, it's a little different. So when you are selling on Amazon or on Walmart.com or that kind of thing, you have a product picture, you have a description, customers buy, especially with Amazon, that's more my field of expertise with retail. They come and they see pictures, they read a description, boom, they buy your product. When you're working in retail, you're not selling to that end customer. You're selling to a retail buyer. And that retail buyer is potentially going to be investing, thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars into your product. And they don't have a lot of time. And so you need that retail catalog in order to present them exactly what they need to know in as short amount of time as possible, so they can quickly scan through that catalog and see everything that they need in order to make a buying decision. So you're not trying to convince that end consumer. You're trying to show that retail buyer why he should be investing hundreds of thousands of dollars into your product, and you need to get it to them quickly. They're very busy people, and the retail catalog we've found is the best way to help them get that information, to get them on a call with you to close that deal.
Very good.
So yeah, so when you create a catalog, what information, what you describe, what are you showing there that is very, very important that the buyer, to help the buyer make a, better, faster decision, get their attention, I guess.
Yeah, so you've just asked a question that really starts moving to the heart of the retail catalog. And I would tell you, as Norm already mentioned, we've worked with a lot of brands over the years, helping them with their catalogs. And one of the things we found is that most people trying to create a catalog get it wrong. I would say probably 98% of people that we've worked with, when they say, oh yeah, I can do a catalog, no problem, I know exactly what that is, I'll have a designer create one, then they show it to us and we're like, okay, that's wrong, that's going to turn the buyer off, you're missing this, and this, and take this out, right? And it's like we have to completely recreate it. So some of the things that are super important is you need high definition quality images. So that's going to be a difference. That's going to be a mixture of perhaps lifestyle, but then also just the product images, because that buyer needs to be able to look at the catalog and quickly see, does the product fit our clientele. You're also going to want to be showing the packaging. In our retail mastermind, we've been talking a lot about packaging, and Norm's been doing some amazing lessons on packaging. And it is super important. If the catalog doesn't have the packaging, that retail buyer may just simply just turn and go to another product where he can see that the packaging does reflect that store's clientele and focus. You're also going to want to be displaying such information as the weight, the size. They're going to want to know things like the wholesale price, the MSRP. For people coming from the Amazon world, where your final sale price, your MSRP on Amazon, a lot of people use price changers and they keep changing that price. You're not doing that with retail. And a lot of people don't understand the importance of showing price. But I'll tell you one thing. You can send catalogs out to buyers. You can have exactly the same product, exactly the same presentation. One catalog will have the wholesale and MSRP price. The other catalog won't. And I can guarantee you that you will get more responses and more interested buyers if they can see the prices in that catalog beside the product picture with the product details. So we've got pictures, we have the pricing, we have those product details like the technical details of the size and the weight. And then we do want some descriptions. Now, these are going to be different than your Amazon descriptions, of course, or your Walmart descriptions, but the buyer needs to know that this product is going to meet the needs or meet the pain points of their customer, but they don't have a lot of time to see that. And so you're looking at a very clean presentation. You don't want, pages of text. You've got to really have that clean and concise. So those are some of the key details that we're looking for.
Yeah, that's all makes sense.
Yeah. So go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it does make sense, but you'd be surprised at the number of people that don't actually create it that way. It is surprising.
So let's do a hit list. The catalog, what should it contain?
So the catalog needs to contain, obviously, your brand name. It needs to contain plain product with packaging photos, like what we would call on Amazon your main product photo. That needs to be in the catalog. But you're also going to need some lifestyle images, because the retail buyer, perhaps they've never seen your product. Maybe you're introducing a new product that doesn't have 20 different competitors, right? This might be something new for their store. And so they need to see this product being used. We've done some talking recently about how, product videos, you can even have a link in your catalog to a product video so that they can quickly grab, okay, this is how it fits my store. So you don't want those photos. You're also going to want to have the product name, of course, because you want them to be able to put the name and the product title together in their mind as a cohesive unit. You're going to want to have the pricing, as we've already talked about. That needs to be front and center, because like I say, you will lose a retail buyer if they do not see the price. They don't have the time to go back and forth with you on pricing. If they don't see it, they're gone. Also, the product dimensions. So a retail buyer is thinking, we've had conversations with lots of buyers about this. They're thinking, how would this fit on my product shelving? Okay. Is this going to fit on an end cap? Is this going to fit on an aisle display? Is this going to be something that we're creating room for on the shelf? And if so, in our crowded inventory, how much space do I have to dedicate to this brand line? Am I going to be able to give them just, a couple square feet on one shelf? Are they going to need multiple shelves? Well, we don't know unless we see the product dimensions. And that's not something that you're really showing in a lot of your e-commerce listings. That's not something that the algorithms are looking for in your keywords, 22 inches by 1 inch by 3 inches, right? You're not looking for that in your Amazon titles. But retail buyers, they have to have that information. I would say the next important thing is that you need to have a clear-cut product description. So this is where it's going to be similar. So your buyers coming from Walmart or Amazon, you're going to understand the description side, but it needs to be clean and concise. Okay, clean and concise. They do not have time to read through a lot of script. And something that we see that people get wrong is they want to start their catalog with their product story, with their brand story. 99.99% of people get that wrong. You put that at the end of your catalog. We tell people that your pricing with product photos should be starting on page 2, because that buyer comes in, he might have 30 seconds to make a decision and he's gone. And if you don't grab his attention, pricing, product details, and pictures right now, bang, he's gone. You don't get him back. You can send him 5 follow-up emails. You may never hear from him again.
That's a great point. And I would also state that just like in Amazon, you'll scroll through and you'll see some of the slide deck is just it's too much information.
Yes.
Other is too not enough information, and some is just right. And you can't bog down that buyer because he has to know what he's buying. He wants to take a look at it at a glance. And like you said, lifestyle is great, but also aesthetics.
Yeah.
And colors, like the importance of color. We've talked about this a lot, the importance of colors with your brand, but don't do this yourself, and don't try to save money. There's a right way and a wrong way to spend money, right? And this is one of those areas where you want to spend, and you don't have to spend. Like, just for example, we do retail catalogs all the time. I'm talking Talor, you, me, and they can be anywhere from $400 to $750, around there. They might go a little higher, but it's not expensive.
No, the retail catalogs, that's one thing that I think we need to really pause on here, and that is your branding in the catalog. So a lot of people, they kind of have some idea of branding from their website maybe, but the catalog has to have that consistent branding, the coloring, the fonts, right? So all those ideas, I mean, we're not talking about websites today. We're talking about catalogs. But let's say you're maximized at 2 or 3 fonts on your website. You have maybe 3 or 4 colors on your website, 2, 3 colors, something like that. Whatever your website has, you do not go beyond that in your catalog. You do not introduce a bunch of new colors. You do not introduce a bunch of new fonts and a bunch of new themes in your catalog. You want to have that brand cohesiveness, because one of the first places the retail buyer is going to go, he's going to look at your catalog, he's going to go to your website. And if it doesn't match, then now you're looking like some sort of brand that's just built in your basement somewhere. You're not legit. You're just sourcing stuff off Alibaba or whatever. And it's like, this is not a brand that they're going to want to bring into Costco. Okay. They're not going to want to bring that into Macy's. They're not going to want to bring that into Nordstrom's. And so you have to have that brand cohesiveness through the colors and the fonts, the way the pictures are done, the styles, headers, footers, however you're going to set that up. You need to have that brand cohesiveness. And Norm, you mentioned a super good point. I'll reiterate. They have to be able to scan it quickly. So work with a designer. And we tell all our brand people, I don't make catalogs. Talor doesn't make catalogs. We know what they're supposed to look like. We send people to designer, because you're right, Norm. Let's say you're going to invest, let's say a median of $500 in a catalog. What is $500 compared to an order of $300,000 because you did your catalog right? I mean, that's the difference in numbers we're looking at, right? Oh, it's $500. It's super expensive. I don't have a $300,000 order yet. You're not going to get that $300,000 order without a catalog.
Yeah, there's so many good points, but I think everything you said is very relevant to go to retail, but it's just relevant in general. Like, you have to display your brand really good. Even, when you want to apply to Walmart, is the same thing. You cannot just, they're going to look at your website. They're going to look at your brand. What are you selling? They're really looking into you, like who you are. And I'm sure retail is the same thing. They're not going to take a brand that doesn't look like a nice brand. So spend the time to brand yourself right. Make sure your website is very appealing and kind of align with your catalog.
Yeah, I would mention, we talk to a lot of brands that sell on Amazon. And I mean, we all know what the Amazon, I mean, you get a product, you list it on Amazon, you sell, I have my own Amazon brand, right? But I know the process to get into Walmart is different than the Amazon process, right? And I would say that your retail process is even more fine-tuned. Most of those buyers are doing some research on you through your website and everything to find out exactly where you're coming from. And you're actually talking to them on calls, right? A lot of these buyers, they will book a Zoom call with you, see you face to face. You don't want to show up to that call with your camera off, right? They want to talk to you. They want to see, does this person actually know what they're talking about, right? Because they're investing a lot into your business. It's not that you're just posting stuff on their marketplace and it's your problem if they don't sell. It's now their problem if the product doesn't sell. And that's why these points in the catalog are so important, because they're using that to make their decision. Beyond that call with you, that catalog is your biggest hitter.
Yeah.
Can I say one thing about that buyer too? don't try to hide anything. They are
No.
going to try to, get to understand you. But the one thing that a lot of people don't realize is they know more about your product category than you'll ever know.
Oh, yes.
So, if you're trying to hide any numbers or if you're not giving them the straight goods, they'll know way before, you screw up.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. We've been on calls with buyers and lots of buyers, like lots and lots of buyers. They are sharp. Typically, if these box stores are going to put someone in a buying decision position, let's say they're buying in the pets category, right? There's a lot of different pet brands out there. And let's say they're in the pets category and you have a special product that you've created and you're on a call with a buyer. They've looked at your catalog. They're interested. They look at your website like, yep, this works. Let's get on a call with them. They know what your pricing should be. They know what their wholesale price should be. They know approximately what is going into getting your product to market. And if you try to tell them something that's not accurate, or you try to, slip something in that's maybe not in the catalog, not accurate because you don't have everything quite together, they'll pick up on that right away and they'll politely just kind of end the call and disappear, and you'll wonder what hit you. So you definitely want everything in that catalog to be 100% accurate. If you're not certified organic, don't put certified organic in the catalog just to get their attention, right?
Yeah.
Don't even say organic in the catalog if you're not certified organic. Like, don't do anything that could cause them to raise their eyebrows and go, we're not really quite sure, because you will lose them. So 100% accuracy, 100% honesty. And that's something we've had discussions with brand owners. They're like, well, should I tell them that I sell on Amazon and sell on Walmart? And we're like, something, you be 100% honest, because if they ask, do you sell on other marketplaces? Tell them yes. Some buyers like, what, or some brand owners like, well, I don't want to tell them that because I don't want them to think I'm just an Amazon brand. Oh no, they'll be looking, they'll find out. And if you don't tell them, they'll say that guy didn't tell us the truth, So we don't promote to retail buyers. And this is something we should mention in the catalog as well. It's super important for the catalog. In your catalog, do not state that you sell on other marketplaces. So if you're a brand owner and you're listening and you're coming from Walmart, you're coming from Amazon, and I'll put my Amazon reviews in the catalog, or the fact I sell on Amazon or Walmart, don't put that in the catalog. You're targeting retail buyers, not marketplace B2C. You're going to B2B, and just make it for those retailers. But if they ask you on a call, tell them that you sell in the marketplaces. Don't hide it.
Yeah, I have a question. So we're talking about, how catalog is, very important part. I guess it's like the where you get their attention.
Yeah.
But there's so much into it. So, let's say someone is listening right now. He's a brand. He's started maybe with Amazon. He's getting very successful. He understands that maybe he should, open himself to different, venues, more marketplaces, retail. So it's one thing to go to e-commerce, from Amazon, then to go to Walmart, to Shopify, but going to retail is completely different story. So what brands need to know in the process to be prepared to go to retail, because there's so much. So if you can maybe share a little bit, because we talked about the catalog, but I'm sure there's so much more into it.
There is, and I think that question does play into the catalog. So part of the reason why we create a catalog is because we want to catch their attention, but we also want to move them towards having that onboarding call, right? Where they book a Zoom call to talk to you personally. So some of the things that, are super important that you're going to need to know before you start sending that catalog out is they're going to ask you, some of them are going to want to talk to you about pricing. And we get this a lot. You put in your catalog, my MSRP is $50. My wholesale price is $25. You're going to get a lot of buyers saying, something, we like your product, especially if you have some of the various off-price buyers out there, which can really, really help your brand grow fast because they buy such huge quantities. They'll say your MSRP is $50. We want it for $40. Usually they'll talk percentages. They'll say, instead of 50% off, MSRP, we want 60% off. We want 75% off MSRP, right? So you have to know your numbers. If you're going to sell in retail and you don't know your numbers, you will not make it. You have to know your numbers, and you want to know in percentage and margins. Don't go with dollar value. go with percentage and go with margins, and know it very well. Be able to have a fluid conversation so that when you're placing those prices in your catalog, you know, okay, this is my MSRP. This is my wholesale price. Typically it's a 50-50, right? Your MSRP is typically 50, of your wholesale. But be prepared to be able to have a conversation where they say, hey, your catalog said this. We would like to buy, but instead of 50%, we want 65. So I'd say that knowing your prices is probably one of the biggest conversations that we have with brand owners. And they find out, well, I don't know if I can do that. Well, it's your job to know what your landed costs are, to know what you can offer that buyer. Because what will happen is sometimes these retail buyers will come, they'll have the pricing, and they'll want to start with an introductory order. And they might want something off, a special deal, starting deal. Be ready to give it to them, but then know where your dollars land. So you're not actually paying to get your product in their store. Some of the other things that are super important is compliance issues. If you have products that have to have some sort of compliance issues, especially if they're kind of health or supplement products, skin products, put that in your catalog to let them know that your product is compliant with FDA regulations, or if they're electronics, and there's certain regulations, especially if it's like drones or electronics like that, you need to have that compliance in your catalog so that they know right up front that they're not going to have to worry about any liability issues having your product on their shelves. So those are some things I think that, sometimes e-commerce brand owners don't pay a lot of attention to, especially if they're reselling products. But once you have a brand and you're talking to retail buyers, you have to know all of those issues before you start talking to them. And a lot of them need to go in your catalog. You don't put your lowest price in your catalog. Leave those margins for the discussion on the call. But any compliance issues need to be in there for sure.
Yeah, that was a good one. Important tip.
It got me thinking, just listening to you speak about the buyer and, him coming back or them coming back and talking to you about a percentage. Yeah. So yes, you've got to know that. And so that's interesting. I've got another question later on about that. But something that a lot of people don't realize is that when a buyer comes back and starts to negotiate, that doesn't mean that's it. I think a lot of buyers or sellers especially if they're new, they're so excited that somebody's got an interest in them. I kind of felt like that at high school when a girl actually said yes.
Retail buying and girls in high school. Okay, I've never quite seen the correlation, but here we go. Here we go.
But it's so important. I've talked to people at shows, and they've said that they've accepted the first deal. And okay, but you probably left a lot of money on the table. So do you want to get into that? Just, you don't have to, they're not going to just kick you to the curb. And if they do, then they weren't really interested, were they?
That is correct. So there was a fellow we just talked to in the last few weeks, and or maybe it was a bit longer, but it wasn't that long ago. Anyways, and he said that one of the things that he liked to do as a retail buyer was he just come in with an offer. Hey, I'll give you this. And he said we could really tell really fast if a brand owner was experienced or not, because the experienced ones, the ones who really knew what they were doing, would come back with a counter offer. He said, I just come in with a rock bottom offer.
I know who you're talking about too. I know who you're talking about.
Okay. Yeah, I can't remember exactly where this conversation happened, but I know there was this conversation that happened. And we've seen that where I won't do it right now because we just privacy issues and stuff, but we could show emails where we see this conversation going back and forth between a buyer and a brand owner where they're negotiating price. So Norm, you're 100% correct. When you're putting your prices in your catalog, know your landed prices, know your margins, and then be prepared to have a professional, friendly conversation with that buyer negotiating. And they may come back and say, we want 75% off that MSRP. In your mind that you don't want to do 75. You maybe could do 70. Maybe you could do 68. Maybe you come back with a 65. They say 70, right? So there's some of that old-fashioned negotiation that happens in retail. You don't have any of that in the e-commerce. The buy box is $39.99. They either take it or leave it unless you have a sale on. Whereas in retail, you can get your way into some very nice deals by being willing to negotiate. And don't just accept that first price. Like Norm says, do not accept that first price. you've already stated in your catalog what you're expecting. And if they're really wanting to just knock that to the curb and say, you're asking 50, they know probably that your landed price is maybe going to be $12.50 or something like that, maybe. Of a $25 wholesale and $50 MSRP. So they know already what your landed price probably is. They're going to push you as low as you can, but they also know that if you know what you're doing, you're going to come back with a counter offer. And if you have a polite conversation, do not get offended. Keep it polite. I know I'm Canadian, but keep it polite, keep it friendly. And there's a really good chance, number one, you'll build a good relationship with them for repeat orders. And number two, you'll have more money in your bank at the end of the day with your counter offer that they'll be like, okay, yeah, sure, we can do that. No problem. And we've seen those conversations and email threads back and forth with brands that we've worked with.
Yeah. What more things that, when you have, let's say you got to the conversation with the buyer, you're on a Zoom call with them, and they're asking different questions. What other question, they can ask that you want to be prepared to?
So again, this would go back to just bringing this back to the catalog a little bit. If you have a well-prepared catalog, a lot of the questions get answered. And so, sometimes people will say, how can we use, some of these conversations to help us develop our catalog? So what we try to think of is there something about your product that most people don't know? Right? Because that's something that the brand owner is going to be asking on the call, especially if it's a newer product to their store. Maybe they don't have other competitors, and they're going to be wanting to know like what is unique about this product that our customers would want, and how they phrase that might change from buyer to buyer. If you know that your product is unique, have something about that in the catalog so they're already prepared. Now, they may still ask it on the call, but you can say, well, as our catalog says, we have certification. We're the only company in the US that has, this patent on whatever. And so they're going to be wanting to find out what is unique. I think that's one of the biggest ones. They're also going to be asking questions about your lead time on orders. And this is something that you don't need to put in your catalog, but you need to be prepared for the conversation. So we're kind of veering into that live conversation away from catalogs now, which is fine. But they're going to ask you lead time on orders. So in your catalog, you have your pricing, you have this, the wholesale, you have the product dimensions, the quantity. Usually in the catalog, we're not putting lead time on orders. We're not putting, how many we have in stock in our warehouse. We're not putting any of that in the catalog. You want that, save that for that in-person call, because they're going to ask you, what do you have for landed inventory? They might even send you an email to ask that. How much do you have in stock? And you might say, I got 200 units. Never, ever lie on your inventory. Ever, ever, ever. If you only have 50 units in stock of a certain variation, you only have 50 units in stock of a certain variation. And what you do, I have 50 units in stock, but I can bring in the other 500 within 6 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever that lead time is. And they understand, most retail buyers that are good at their job, they understand that there's a lead time and it will not drop your orders. If they know it's 6 weeks, no problem. They'll wait 6 weeks. No big deal. And that's not a problem at all. So be prepared for lead time questions. Do not put that in your catalog at all. Do not put your stock numbers in your catalog, because obviously that's going to be changing. And be prepared to have that conversation about lead time confidently, not as if, well, I'm sorry, it's going to be 6 weeks. No, our lead time is 6 weeks. You're confident about it. And if you approach that conversation, hey, it's 6 weeks, this is how it is, they're going to respond back, okay, no problem.
Yeah, one of the other things that just want to go back to the buyer for a second. It's going down a little bit different rabbit hole, but it's coming back to lead time. So again, we've had these discussions with new buyers where, I've got my inventory on Amazon. If I get a purchase order, first of all, they think, and I just had this conversation this week, that, what do I have to do? How do I protect my Amazon inventory? Because they're going to give me hundreds of thousands of units, like a big order, national. And first, that's not how it works for the most part. No. You're going to get either a store or some regional. Okay. Then, it'll stretch out. And it'll also go by, they're not going to be selling parkas, in Texas, during this time of year, or not even this time of year, back a few months ago, half a year ago. But, so it also about your location. So it's not that once you go in and you get a solid PO, you have to worry about that. And my point is, when you first go in, if you don't have enough inventory, if your retail packaging isn't there, so a lot of people don't do that properly. So the buyer will put in a purchase order. It might be a small test, and a small test could be, a few $1,000s. It could be $10,000+. But you can go back and say, I don't have the inventory. And you can work that out as well. So if you're worried about Prime Day coming up and this coming out at the same time, you can just let them know. And for the most, depending on what it is and what category you're in, they'll just say, okay, how much time do you need? I've seen that over and over and over.
Yes, 100%. And that's something important, especially if a brand is selling in e-commerce and trying to get into retail, which a lot of brands are. That's kind of where we see a lot of movement from that e-commerce to the retail. Years ago, it was kind of there was this quote unquote mythical retail exodus, in the 90s towards the e-commerce and early 2000s. And then we're seeing a lot of brands realizing that because 85% of retail sales still actually happen in physical stores, now they're wanting to come back from e-commerce into retail. And you're seeing these retails like Tractor Supply is adding new stores. We've talked to pet stores. There were 75 stores in 2023 and 2024. They're wanting to have 150 stores in their chain. Like, we're talking some massive retail growth happening. And of course, all these stores need to be stocked by brands. So I think that inventory question is a really big one. Something, taking this back to the catalog again, sorry for the squeaky voice here, but something that we've noticed. So I've worked with some smaller Canadian brands that, they're kind of family-owned businesses. They're wanting to get into retail. And this one in particular, it's a seasonal product, and it's kind of in the farming category. And they've got their patent, and they've got their industrial design, all this kind of great stuff. They're selling in Canada and the US. They've moved thousands of products. They're happy with their brand. But one of the things is some of the buyers want to just start really small. Or not the buyers, sorry, brand owners. They want to start in retail really small. So if you're a brand owner and you have a brand, you want to start really small. You're not wanting to get into Macy's right away. This is a tip for you for your catalog. So this small brand owner was like, something, we know we're not going into the big box stores. We're looking for these smaller mom and pop stores. Now, these smaller mom and pop stores, if you're creating a catalog specifically for them, they want to know almost always what their MOQ is. So that's your minimum order quantity. Because a mom and pop store is typically not ordering $50,000 worth of product. They're a small store. There might be 2 or 3 stores in the chain. And what I've seen multiple occasions with brands, when you're wanting to start small, just get your feet wet in retail, you can put in your catalog, minimum order quantity, 20 units, or whatever that minimum order quantity is, right? And that helps that buyer, when they're come on the call with you, to know kind of where they stand. Because otherwise what will happen is you'll get endless emails. What's your minimum order quantity? What's your minimum order quantity? Because they're scared that a brand will not sell to a store that small. And so you might have health food stores, the big one, independent health food stores, farm stores. And so you might have 50 independent health food stores selling your products. They might order 20 or 30 at a time. This is a totally different topic. The mom and pop stores, but I know that some brands want to sell. They don't want to sell in Macy's and Nordstrom's. They're not ready to sell 50,000 units at a time, right? They want to start small. So in your catalog, you can help those mom and pop store owners out by MOQ 20 products, right? Or MOQ 50 products. And they actually like that, because then they realize that you as a brand already know their limitations, and that you are specifically set up to help them as a mom and pop shop to buy from you. Because what can happen is you can reach out to them with a catalog, and they just think, they're just another big brand. We can't buy directly from brands. We only buy from distributors because we're too small. No brand will work with us. But by having those small MOQs, those mom and pop stores actually feel, empowered and inspired. Hey, we can work with this guy. So it's something. Don't do that if you're reaching out to the Macy's and the Bass Pros and the Tractor Supplies and the Sheens of the world, but you can do that when you reach out to the small little people, little independents.
I really loved where you went now, because one of the things that I was in shock, I couldn't believe that when Talor was telling us there's more than 30,000 chain store in the US. I was like 30 is a lot, right? But I guess a lot of them, they're small, very small chains, or very, they have their own niches. So,
Yeah.
I just saw the other day here in Vegas was a very, it was a store for art supply, and it seems like it's a chain store, right? Very nichey, very, very nice concept. And I guess we see those all the time and we don't realize those are actually a chain store. So all the brands that want to go to retail, I'm thinking that, if you a little bit, afraid to jump directly, I don't know, to Macy's or Costco or Walmart, you can definitely start with those, right? So you can get yourself, get your feet, I would say, wet and just try it out. So I think that's a good point that I want people want to, think about. We can start and see if we like that, if we can go to retail, get the experience from going to those small chains. So anything you want to add on that, or, how you find the right ones? Like, how people actually, let's say there's 30,000 chain store. How can you go through that? How can you find the ones that are right for you? I guess you guys have solutions. Right.
Oh boy, that's a whole nother podcast right there. I tell you, that's a whole new podcast. But there is a system, so I can answer that really quick. And then maybe down the road we could do a podcast on that too sometime. But because I know once people realize, ooh, I could start selling orders, to these smaller stores. How do we do that, right? Yeah. Well, that's exciting, right? So if you're just starting out, there's different softwares you can use, but I would say right off the top, if let's say you're in Vegas, right? You have a small brand. Let's say you have a small skincare brand or a small natural supplement brand. There's a lot of people that have those. They're kind of, they're home-owned businesses. They're wanting to grow. This is where brands start, right? This is where the whole brand starts. Someone has an idea, they get it developed, they grow it. What I would do is I would go to Google or some of these other AI search platforms, and I would just look for health food stores, right? Natural food stores. Get a list, get a spreadsheet, create a catalog. Make sure you have that catalog just exactly like we've been talking about, with the pictures and the product dimensions, all that kind of stuff. And then you can email it to them and then follow up with a phone call. And that's something that we don't talk about when we're talking about big box stores. You don't call big box stores. You don't reach out to Tractor Supply and then follow up with a phone call to one of the 50 different phone numbers that they might have under their business. You don't do that. They don't want to hear from you. They want to reach out by email because they're too busy. But the little independents, you send that catalog, make it nice, make it friendly, make it fit their niche really well, make it branded properly so they feel this is a professional brand reaching out to me. But then you follow it up with a catalog. Hey, this is Aaron Harbidge from XYZ Health Products. We sent you a catalog back on Monday and just wondering if you had a chance to look at it. Because you're not now working with a marketing team like with Tractor Supply or Sheen. You have like dedicated marketers. You're now working with a smaller, perhaps a family-owned or multi-generational owned business, and they might bring you really good revenue, but you're working with the buyer who's also the owner or the son or daughter of the owner, right? And so by that phone call, you establish that personal connection. They'll be like, yeah, we looked at it, and hey, do you work with stores that are small like us? You can say, absolutely, we do. What would you need to start placing an opening order? And they might tell you something, oh, well, we'd love to start with 30 products. And you can say, hey, that's great. Let's talk to Sue. We can get a PO and go from there. So there's that personal touch that's different than those big box stores. The big box stores very email focused, very, very that kind of that virtual. Whereas the mom and pop shops, you still want that catalog. Make that catalog good. That's your first impression, and then you follow up with a phone call. And we have done that, and we have taken those little brands and placed them in stores. Yeah, for sure.
I love that. That's exciting.
We started off talking about some really cool AI tools and apps and things that are on the marketplace right now. Are there any apps that you're using, or any AI apps that could help make your job a little easier?
So like as far as finding buyers
Yeah,
or for
finding
what?
buyers, or it could be just anything to help get you into retail.
Yeah, for sure. So this is definitely starting to move away from catalogs a little bit.
Yeah, it
Uh,
is. I think
but
that was my last question, though.
Okay, so some of the apps that we use for getting into retail. So you have your catalog. It's all beautiful. It's ready to go. It's just sitting there burning a hole in your Google Share Drive. Um, and if you're going to want to reach out to buyers, you do not want your email going to spam. So this is another topic we could do at another time. But we use a platform called Instantly. You cannot use your Mailchimp. Do not use Mailchimp. Do not use Constant Contact. Do not use your Klaviyo or anything like that for sending your emails out when you're sending out these catalogs and you're reaching out to these buyers. You want to use a platform that is dedicated specifically to what we call cold email. And we're really jumping into deep water here. But you're going to want a platform that specializes in cold email and the optimization of your email campaigns. So we use Instantly. I'm not an affiliate of them. I don't make any money off saying that, but we use that platform for sending out emails. It's a very user friendly one. As far as like AI based, at this point, we're not using a lot of AI based. I would say that there's some platforms out there we found super helpful. Apollo.io is one. That's very, very helpful. Hunter.io is another one for verifying leads. Um, and then I would say those three: Instantly, Hunter, and Apollo are probably the three that we use the most. And there's other various ones you can use. Like we use ChatGPT 4, of course, for checking out various stuff. You can do searches, you can do some comparisons, you can do some research on a brand or a store to see how they fit with what you're doing, category searches, that kind of thing. But that's really starting to get into the nitty gritty details of that retail side for sure. A lot of deep water there that we could get into.
All right, very good. Michal, do you have any other questions about catalog?
No. So if somebody want to get a hold of you, and I know you guys you have, I think, 2 amazing projects where you actually work with brands directly. You have your mastermind, and you build a whole course helping brands on how to get to retail. So yeah, if people want to, get to those or find you, where they can do that.
Yeah, so there's a couple ways to do that. They can go online to find out more about kind of what we're teaching and that kind of thing. So we have, as you mentioned, we have a retail mastermind, but one of the things that we're really excited about is our retail secrets course. So when I say in the last couple of minutes, we're getting to deep water with these softwares and the buyer searches and all this kind of thing, we've actually taken a lot of that training, everything that we've really talked about today, and a lot of that, or most of it, if not all of it, is in our retail secrets course. I believe there's over 60 lessons in there, right from building your brand to finding buyers to creating catalogs. We have sample catalogs and all that kind of thing in there. People can actually look at templates, SOPs, all that kind of thing. And so that is one way to get in touch with us, is just to look up Retail Secrets online, retailsecrets.club. You'll be able to find our information there. You can reach out to us from there. If you want to reach out to me personally, you can reach out to me at aaron@retailexplosion.com. And I'm more than happy to answer your questions. And we can definitely get you connected with some of the training from there as well, and talk about retail. We're also happy to book a live call too. If you reach out to me by email or through our website, we can schedule a live call and talk a little bit more about retail too. So
Exciting.
some kind of different ways.
Yeah, I think we could have gone for hours because there's so much into that. So we definitely would love to have you back and go into different topics. Norm, you back?
I'm back.
So anything else, Norm?
No, I think that's it. I thought it was very interesting. Aaron, you're an educator. That's why you're so good.
I love teaching, but coming from you, Norm, that's a compliment. But I love teaching. We could talk more about catalogs. If we were to pull up an example catalog on a call sometime, I'd love to go through a catalog and we could pick out things to do and stuff like that in the catalog. So it's a lot of fun. I like seeing people learn and then take what they learn and put it into action and be successful. That makes me happy.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe the next time, one of the things we do on Lunch with Norm is trash my product. Maybe we could do trash my catalog, and we can do a good one and a bad one.
That would be fun. That would be a lot of fun. I already have some example catalogs in my head for both. So, right on.
Okay.
No, it's been a pleasure. Been a pleasure being on the call with you.
Thank
both
you.
Today,
And
sure.
now I hope you're gonna rest today and you don't have any more calls or anything, so you can
No more
recover.
till next week. So hopefully this goes away.
Ginger
Yes.
tea, buddy. Ginger tea.
Right here.
All right. Okay, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.